All right, guys, welcome to the Level With Me podcast. Today we have a special guest here. It is Matimio's mother.
Yes.
Come to explain the background of the whole milking situation and what goes on there.
Jesus Christ, Level.
It never ends, Brandon. You'd like the podcast.
Oh, my God.
The actual guest we have today is XFactor. We call him Brandon. You probably know him as XFactor. Professional Hello Kitty Island adventure streamer. Is that correct?
Yeah, professional shit poster, honestly.
Yeah. Your Twitter account is always entertaining. Your X account, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I always follow that, and sometimes Matt and I actually discuss your tweets on the podcast because it's always good for crazy stuff going on there.
I do be sending out some pointed, spicy tweets at times.
Now, are you still hard into the Apex world, or are you kind of dabbling in different stuff?
It's just like there. I played Dead Island 2. There's a bunch of great games out, but there's nothing on the market that compels me like Apex in its purest form. I'm waiting for the next thing, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you have any like guesses as to what the next thing is, or you're just sort of waiting?
I don't know. I know Halo came out, kind of crapped the bed. I know Battlefield came out, definitely crapped the bed. I know there's other games that have come out, like X Defiant got me going, but I'm like, wait a minute, I'm dying 20 feet behind cover. This guy just one-shot me 3 times in a row. You know, like the netcode stuff. It's just, you know, at this day and age, if you're coming out with a major title, and you can have an okay netcode, but if your netcode's non-existent, I'm just done with it. I've played too many games like that.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing the like competitive shooter. I think Matt and I have kind of backed down a bit from like taking ourselves seriously in the gaming world, and Matt's,
you're old, and we finally got old, and you're still going with it.
Yeah.
I don't know why or how. Or
I'm a genetic specimen, as they would say.
Yeah.
I'm like 1 in 5. But no, I would love to play more variety. Like I stop in to see Matimio all the time, and I'll say hi, and he'll troll him a little bit, as the kids call it. And I just he's always got a smile on his face. He's always playing stuff. I'm like, what is this? This looks fun.
Yeah. For anyone who's not intimately familiar with I guess our channels over the years, we all kind of started YouTube around the same time. Like,
yeah.
I started in 2011. When did you guys start?
2011, December.
Probably around there too.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. I never realized that.
Before you guys, maybe it was 2010. But
yeah,
I never realized
I started
that.
off with Bad Company too. Like just a couple of videos. So
same. That's funny. We must have started really close to around the same time.
And I played professionally in that game, so we literally had almost identical starts.
Yep.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's wild to think we're all playing Bad Company 2 back in like 2010, being like, oh man, BF3 is going to be amazing.
It got there. It just took a while.
Yeah.
And then they did it again with BF4. Really crapped the bed again. And then they created CTE and made it amazing.
It's that Battlefield spice, right? They got to start off bad, and then they got to slowly get better over the years.
At least they're consistent.
They are damn consistent with that. Unfortunately,
yeah, it is wild how much they repeat that process.
After saying they never do it again. We've learned from our mistakes.
That's the most heartbreaking part, is to have all of the things that they learned from Battlefield 4, the grenade spam. They're like, oh, grenade spam? Well, welcome to Battlefield 1. And then they're like, oh, Battlefield 1 has too much grenades. Let's tone it down. It's like, stop. Just learn, please.
They had a formula. They figured it out between Bad Company 2, BF3, and BF4, little bits and pieces. And they had a home run formula. You know, because no game's perfect. But man, at the end, BF4 was pretty damn close with suppression and the netcode and the grenade spam. And like, why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, that's the weird thing to me, is you can almost respect COD for just recycling itself for year after year, because even if you don't like COD, the people that do like COD get more COD, right? They're like, I
they're
like that.
diehard fans for 30 days every year.
I don't know. You guys see the new innovation they're bringing this year?
The diving.
Sprinting every
backwards.
direction. Yeah. That's exciting, right?
Getting
let me
crazy,
ask
man.
you this. Let me ask you this. Let's say Call of Duty doesn't change the time of kill. Let's say Call of Duty still has a little wonkiness to their net code. Can you imagine some guy max painting you behind a desk and you just see the tip of their head lunging out sideways and you're already dead?
Oh, absolutely. I played
Like, how many times is that going to happen?
Six Siege for, half a decade, so I'm well aware of that nonsense.
But while flying in the air with an SMG or shotgun.
That's true. That didn't really happen.
Oh my God. I don't know. I mean, it's cool. And if they increase the TDK, it might be magic. But if it's still that, you see you're dead, that's gonna be infuriating.
Is gonna matter a lot. I get why people like the fast TTK, but man, I've been enjoying X Defiant. I know that it does have the netcode problems, but what I really appreciate it is that the TTK feels more like
much better
battlefields where you're doing about 22 damage with ARs and stuff like that at close medium range. So it takes about 4 or 5 shots to take people out, and so that gives you a nice little chance to actually have a engagement where you can have a little bit of firefight. Get some headshots in there. When if there was multiple players, you can come out on top. But it's the engagements are actually more, dare I say, engaging.
Mm-hmm. And they're not set in one way. The guy who shoots first and lands 2 bullets. And that's skill gap and skill ceiling. It's 2 things. Mm-hmm. And that's why I agree with you with X Defiant. It's like, wow, this is COD, but fixing all the cheese, minus the netcode and the wonkiness.
Yeah.
How much do you think? Brandon, your level of play is even considered with these big titles nowadays, because they look at the bigger market and they're like, we got to appeal to 90% of the players, and
right, game assist
top 10%, that's less important to us. We want the 90% to really like the game. So
I think that's why we've seen aim assist creep in games like Halo, Warzone, COD, Apex. The good news is some of those are changing that. They've realized they've gone too far. But I believe that's a major thing that's underestimated is they run these algorithms and they run this data and they say, wait a minute, we found that people don't have the time, and it's okay if you don't have the time. You've got a family, a 9 to 5, you work 2 jobs, or the attention span. You do have the time, but you don't have the attention span or the ability to get that good. So you just crank the dials a little bit where, everybody can be average or above average.
Get you that dopamine kill more readily at the start, as opposed to you having to sink a couple hours in before you're starting to feel good about your play. They're like, no, you're good right at the start because, look, you kind of aimed at that guy and you got a headshot. And you're like, oh, okay, did I though?
Well, what I didn't realize is that the aim assist is cranked up a lot, but it's for when the player is moving. And so a lot of the pro players will buy controllers that have a little bit of stick drift for their movement. So they're always slightly moving, which then really kicks in the aim assist even more. And I was like, that makes so much more sense, because when I pick up a controller, I mean, granted, I'm trash, right? Just in general, controller or PC, but I'm not experiencing that crazy amount of aim assist that I'm seeing on videos. And it makes so much more sense that when you look at it from that lens, it's like, oh, it's just because they're always slightly on the move, and that really ramps it up.
Yeah, you have to break the mechanics of the game to abuse the incredibly powerful stuff. And of course, everybody does that. So if you're taking it seriously, now there's a huge argument in a lot of games like Call of Duty where you could be better on a controller even if you've been playing for your whole life on keyboard and mouse. You're like, well, give me a week and I'll get good on controller.
People that pick up Apex and they've been mouse and keyboard players for years, and they switch to controller and they're posting fat clips of 1-mags that night. Like, I just got 3 1-mags back to back to back. It's like, I've never done that. So, I mean, the good news is Apex has stated on Reddit, on Twitter, in interviews that they absolutely have identified that it is broken. They know it, and they're rebuilding it from the ground up. The question is, it's been 2 years. Do we start to see that this fall? Like it's rumored, it's supposed to kind of start trickling down.
Yeah, I wonder if for truly competitive play, if games are going to have to. It's hard because you kind of just have to segregate the PC console market again and stop.
I do input. I do input balancing. Yeah. Hey,
or
mouse and
that,
keyboard.
right? Yeah,
You're over here. Controller on these competitive titles. You guys are over here. And then it doesn't matter that it's not as important.
Yeah,
Or just
because
let people
it's
opt into what they
impossible.
want.
It's impossible to balance a joystick versus a mouse, right? They're completely different. There's no way to ever make them truly equal. There's always going to be something that's better on one or the other, depending on how you have to compensate for it. And so the only true way to do it is just to give everybody input parity. But the downside is the big companies are like, well, crossplay is a huge marketing potential.
Yeah.
Now everybody can play with their friends regardless of what platform you're on. Like, it's fantastic. So I don't see them ever going away from crossplay, and it just seems to make more sense for them to just keep trying to balance it out, but never really achieve that. Maybe they just keep input parity for hardcore tournament stuff or something. I don't know if they'd even go that far. Do the tournaments for Apex have like PC and controller people?
No, it's mostly controller players now. Like the top players have switched from mouse and key to controller. It's pretty bad.
That's when you know there's a problem.
That's fascinating.
No one switched to mouse in 3 years, but there's a laundry list of people that have switched to controller, minus one guy that was having like arthritis and hand issues. Like he had a medical reason to get off controller.
Oh my God. I think at that point, it's like, maybe take a break, buddy.
Well, that and Apex does a great job of data collection. When solos mode came out, like that just, they have all the data they need. Every elo, every skill gap, every character. Here you go. And now R5, which is like a secondary ancillary program to Apex where people could just 1v1. The average controller player has like 8 to 10% or 12% more accuracy. And that's average?
8 to 10%, 8 to 12%.
8 to 12, and that's average.
Huge. I remember,
that's wild.
I remember back when I was more serious about Battlefield and really paying attention to accuracy ratios and stuff. And like the top players, the difference was like a few percent, like 1 to 2% between.
That's a lifetime of difference. And
huge
when you're shooting
in those games,
1,000 rounds, 1,000 rounds around.
Yeah. So that's a huge percent. But you're saying in Apex, it's 10 to 12% between.
It's ridiculous. And then
so
you can talk about Halo. Halo did a thing where they took the average aim assist user right in Halo. There were only like 12 mouse and keyboard players that were above the average aim assist user in Halo out of the entire player base.
That's probably why they added in aim assist for a little bit of aim assist for mouse. Yeah.
Which is absolutely dumbfounding.
It's weird position we find ourselves in because it doesn't feel right because like for the longest time and just the ergonomics of a mouse and keyboard is more accurate, right? You can just be more accurate naturally because you're just moving it to exactly where you want.
Yeah.
But to have the thing that is literally just your thumbs moving sticks somehow be more accurate because of all of the little enhancements, that's wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a space this big or bigger if you have a mouse pad, right? And you can use that whole area for your precision. And then the little joystick is like, okay, the amount you move your thumb is that big. Okay, so that's supposed to equal that in terms of precision. Obviously, it never will. And so, yeah, the Halo solution is so wild to me because they're like, well, I don't understand why you wouldn't just dial back the aim assist until you get parity as opposed to add in aim assist. It's like two ROMs don't make a what.
They want it to be fun. They want it to, like you said earlier, for your average player, they just want it to be engaging. They want it to feel snappy and like you're actually hitting shots. And they don't want those players to be like, man, I can't hit the broadside of a barn door. This sucks.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like Halo has fast movement either. Right. It's very fluid and floaty, which made it even more mind-blowing to me. And when they announced that, I honest to God thought the whole internet was trolling. Like, there's no way. Nope, guess not.
Well, it's pretty wild. I wonder where it's going to go down the road. I feel like, I don't know.
To be clear, aim assist isn't a bad thing. It's
it's necessary.
Yeah.
We're just talking the level it's gotten to when you don't have to match a player's movement with your thumb and it still holds. Like, that's wild.
Yeah. The thing that drives me crazy is when you can feel it when you're playing like on a PC and you're sprinting in COD and you feel every single shot laser beam you and you're like, I don't care if you're Shroud or whatever, like you're not going to land every single one of those shots on me as I'm like parkouring around the environment. Like,
Yeah.
and you just feel that snappy, that sticky aim, and you're just like, okay, that just kind of ruins the feeling for me.
The other thing that, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because when you're taking out players and you're getting aim punched and like half of your rounds are missing, but then like you're hitting them and then it feels like none of their shots are ever missing.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay,
or the game's first and foremost balanced for controller, so the muzzle flash is so big you can't even see your target. And you're like, how did this pass
visual clutter
your thing? Oh, you're just using your aim assist, so it doesn't matter if you can't see your target. Once you start shooting, it's like firefight's over anyway. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
The other thing that's complicated the waters is, again, this is not all titles, but games like Warzone, Apex, Halo, is detecting cheaters when you're spectating. Like, is this guy just controller or is he cheating? Like, there are so many times where I honestly can't tell the difference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what's funny about it is it's because the fundamentals of aim assist are the fundamentals of like an aimbot, right?
Yep.
Where it's like, yeah, it tracks you and shoots at you for in place of your actual skill and movement. But yeah, so Brandon, only Apex these days, or you ever dabble? Are you playing the banana clicker game that's blowing up right now?
No, not yet. I need to finish Cyberpunk and Dead Island 2. I know there's a DLC for Dead Island 2 a while back. I'm so far behind. I'm so far behind. But like, I kind of want to dabble back in Fortnite, but then I saw a couple clips of these cars. I'm like, well, maybe I'll wait till next season.
Oh, what, the rocket car stuff that they're doing in Fortnite now?
They have like Mad Max turrets and just do an insane amount of damage. They're like tanks with miniguns on them is what they are.
And you don't want that?
It looks fun.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have a tank yourself with a minigun, it's not fun.
True. Yeah.
Because you can't build.
It just sounds like a skill issue.
Yeah, you can't build. You can't run away. They can boost. They can shoot through. They can plow through it. You're just dead.
Have you seen they made like a Rocket League racing thing in Fortnite now? Like in the Unreal Fortnite experiences?
Well, it's the second game. Or so not second game. They made a bunch of games that you can play. Yeah. Like officially. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called though, but I've never played it myself.
Like Rocket Racing or something like that.
It's amazing what they're doing with that engine. And the things that I've seen come out of it, even goofy little one-off things, you know, like it's honestly incredible.
Yeah, I think they're about to take over that Fortnite or the Roblox market pretty hard, which that market is massive. So
that's all my kids talk about. That's all my kids talk about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Give it 5 years. Are they going to be talking about Roblox anymore, or going to be Unreal Engine Fortnite experiences?
It's wild. When I met you, you had no children, and now your kids are playing video games, and it's just like, what the heck is going on with
about
time
to be
and
12 and 11.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh,
next month.
Is that what are your kids playing? What games are they playing?
Roblox. That's it.
That's it.
Like they play like a Counter-Strike in Roblox. They've got everything.
Yeah.
Right. Like the other day I went over their shoulder because, you know, the rule is they got to be like where mom is, you know, Mrs. X or myself or within earshot. And I'm like, wait a minute. It looks like Counter-Strike. No, Dad, it's Roblox. I'm like, what?
Well, it's like that Roblox mod that looks just like Call of Duty 4 or something. And like visually, the graphics are on that level. You're like, okay,
you would never
Roblox
assume that it was Roblox.
Yeah, it's stepping it up. It's stepping it up. I think
it's like Fortnite.
They feel the pressure from Epic at this point. They're like, oh crap, like they're throwing the power of the Unreal Engine behind the Fortnite experience now, where our days are numbered over here. We got to step it up.
And we're finally starting to see that engine being used with all the trailers that have come out, like with Game Fest, like Fable. I think Fable might be using Unreal Engine 5.
There's no reason not to use that engine right now.
It looks cool though, man.
Like these games are looking insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when Cyberpunk hit, and obviously that went through, you know, a situation there. But by the end, like, that's just the gold standard of graphics now. And now I'm starting to see trailers on the Unreal stuff. It's like, oh.
Yeah. So they're actually, so funnily is that they're not going to use their engine for Cyberpunk, or
I heard that.
Yeah, they're converting
on over to Unreal.
Yeah, because it's easier to work with, supposedly. It's like the Frostbite thing for Battlefield. And, you know, they try to force feed that. It's like, all right, it's a good engine, but no one knows how to work on it.
I wouldn't be surprised if they got some sort of deal with Epic, just because the exposure of them, of a brand like Cyberpunk switching over to the Unreal Engine is like so good for Epic that Epic might have even paid for them to switch engines versus
they could
taking the cut of the game, you know, because it's probably worth it in the long run for the exposure.
They know how to make a game pop. Like I can't count how many times, like just playing at 1440p, where I'd stop and look up at Cyberpunk and be like, "What the hell?"
Have you seen the mods for Cyberpunk? What they're doing with it? It's insane. Like the visual
clear
stuff.
My internet history, but yes.
Okay. Not those mods, Brandon. Not those mods.
Shit.
I meant
there's some juicy mods, let's put it that way, a year and a half ago or whatever, that you'd see on YouTube. Like, wait a minute, somebody took time to make their jiggly bits bigger. It's like, okay,
nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. This jiggle physics, man. That's the new Unreal Engine 6. Jiggle physics are going to be the next feature. But
I know what you're talking about, Level. There was a mod or someone who created like an ultra realism mode where it had, you know, RTX out the ass, and it literally, if they just took a picture and you would think that was like a real motorcycle, just but it's a video game.
It looks insane. It looks insane. Yeah, they basically tuned it for like, if you have a 4090 and like all the best hardware, you can still run this at like 60 plus, and it looks photorealistic at points. It's just, it really is like the preview of what's to come. It's just only attainable on like insane beast mode.
It was kind of like the Bodycam. Did you check out that Bodycam stuff at all?
Yeah. Did you play the Bodycam game yet, Brandon?
Not yet. I want to. I heard there's a multiplayer.
So
it is just multiplayer. That's it.
Okay.
You're right though, Matt. On Bodycam is basically two devs, a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, took Unreal Engine 5, and they're just like, what if we just throw in Lumen and all of these photogrammetry scanned assets from the asset store, and you got a great looking game overnight. Like, Unreal Engine makes it so easy for you to just throw a character into a world that looks photorealistic now. You could do it in a day. I swear, if you booted it up, you'd have a world that you're like, this looks photorealistic. I don't think they balanced
the maps. I think they just took assets.
I don't think they're maps in the sense that like they're like, okay, so spawn location for team A is going to be here and B is going to be. They just like took a map and tried to fit their game into it. I don't know if you look back on it, but they got their first trailer or one of the early trailers for the game had they're recreating Nuketown for their game, and they got Activision basically gave them a cease and desist or something. Copyright thing, and they backed off on it. So I'm like, okay, when it comes to map development, these guys aren't trying to make maps that fit their game design. They're just throwing maps at the game. I'm gonna put a
map in there, yeah.
Because one of them was Dust 2.
Is not a tactical, strategy-oriented map.
Well, and then the other map they were trying to remake was Dust 2, which is like, that's clearly very, very tuned for Counter-Strike. Like, you could throw it into COD, but it's not going to play particularly well because it's designed specifically for Counter-Strike. Right. And so, like, it was funny to see this where you're like, okay, like, map balance is definitely a very, very distant thought in these guys' minds.
They're also quite young, so.
They're young. What they're doing is very impressive, and honestly, like, good for them. I mean, it feels like they're stealing the Unrecord thunder to a degree, but listen, it is what it is.
I know. I got an idea. I know Star Citizen's garnered about $700 million so far.
Yeah, here we go.
How about we remake a Battlefield-esque game? Maybe you only need about $500 million, right? And just do it on the Unreal, right?
I just need to 500 million. You know, this is chump change, right?
And we're gonna do it from a Caribbean island, with where they can't export you when you.
Yeah, maybe we can get Sam Bankman-Fried to invest in it or something like that.
Absolutely,
get some good money flowing in there.
Look at jokes aside. Look what they did with what was the Battlefield-esque game that we all played for a little bit and laughed our ass off.
Battlebit?
What was that called? Yeah, amazing. Like, I would like to see more iteration like that. You know, like, hey, here's a low dev team, 3 guys, 2 guys, handful of people, not a lot of money, then bang, it makes them a bunch of money. They're happy, they're ecstatic, they brought something new to the market, they brought joy to people's life, because BattleBit was incredible.
It was
a lot of fun.
It took them 5 years to make I think maybe 7 years to make BattleBit. It was a long period of time.
Well,
so
that's why
like,
it's called remastered, even though like no one knew about it.
Yeah. So if you take that and then you say, now just throw it into Unreal Engine 5 visuals, like I think you're upping that production time even further. So as it's easy to make, it seems like it's easy, much more attainable and easier to make that like TDM style shooter. But once you start throwing vehicles in and need them to not perform horribly and like look somewhat realistic, now you're opening a whole new can of worms.
Somebody will make a plugin if there already isn't. Right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's a company that outsourced doing LAVs and tanks. Here's the gravity of this. Here's the traction of that.
They do have a lot of that already.
They have to.
What I'm actually surprised is that I haven't searched for this enough on the Unreal like asset store or other stuff like that, but somebody's probably going to start releasing full FPS packages where it's like, we made this game, but now we're releasing it on the Unreal Engine Asset Store, and you can just use that as your starting point now. So if you made like a Battlefield template, and you're like, it's got your helicopters and jets and jeeps and tanks and your FPS mechanics, now you can throw that in and change it however you want. I feel like that's coming really soon.
Listen, I'm going to make a bold statement. I bet you could lock me, Matimio, Level, Jack Frags, and a couple people in a room. We can make executive decisions, and we'd have a better product than what came out from Battlefield last time.
I mean, I think here's a crazier statement. I think you could grab a couple of people off the street and come up with a better result.
No. I was like, where is this going? We're going to be locked in a room together? Yeah. Like, what's going on right here?
Yeah. No, Matt got excited first before he realized you were talking about game dev.
Put him back in the sex dungeon. Understood.
Well, that reminds me, but
it does remind you.
Delta Force. There's been more information around Delta Force, and it seems like it's going to be going for a Battlefield-esque style experience, but I'm not really
super skeptical on that.
Yeah.
So like,
skeptical too.
If you remember the first trailers, it sort of looked like the Chinese version of Battlefield to a degree, which is like,
well, so I think it's two different. There's going to be the gritty Black Hawk Down single player, and then they've got multiplayer, which is going to be a little bit more arcadey and like, I don't want to say goofy, but more not going for hyper realism, grittiness. It's going to have, like a bow that can use a scan like grenade.
You can shoot people with bow and arrow.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the classes is like primary bow or something.
So we'll see.
Just the juxtaposition of that feels very weird to me because
it is very weird.
The Delta Force games were always they were like as close as you could get to a milsim shooter before they had milsim shooters essentially.
It was one of my first FPSs ever. That was on PC. I think that was my very first was Delta Force. And I was just shooting people with blue and
is this Hawk Ops?
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm looking at it now. Cool, it does look Battlefield-esque. That's sweet.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there because the multiplayer stuff they've shown it looks like Call of Duty meets Battlefield to a degree. And then the single player is like all old school military. So I'm like, this is such a weird mishmash of styles together. Yeah. So I have no idea what to expect from the game, but I'll definitely check it out because it looks like the closest thing anybody's made to a Battlefield clone in forever, and DICE certainly needs the competition.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like that BattleBit just like became massive for like a month, and man, that game really was fun. I loved the way that the Black Hawk helicopters would spiral down when they got shot down, and then you'd black out and wake up next to the wreck. I was like, oh man, that's awesome! Like DICE should do something like that.
Sizemore all heroined out.
I'm sorry, what?
Tom Sizemore, Black Hawk Down. He was the he was the famous actor that ended up being a heroin addict.
Oh Jesus!
Was that the hardcore dude?
He died recently, right? Yeah. Just Google Tom Sizemore.
I like how Lola and I are just like, what the hell did he just say?
That's realism, baby.
Yeah, is that the guy from?
He's like Reservoir Dogs. I mean, he's just Google Tom Sizemore. You'd be like, this guy's in everything.
The Humvee driver. Okay, yeah, I know who it is. Yeah, good reference there. I mean, I'm down for, I want to see more stabs at the Battlefield market. I think the reason it hasn't happened is that it is an expensive game to make. You just need shitloads of
Well,
assets
do you
and lots
think
of
that
complex mechanics.
Do you think that Battlefield is a formula that can sustain itself long term with a large audience? Because talking about BattleBit and even Battlefield to some extent, BattleBit lasted a couple of months and it did incredibly well. It was a huge success. Anyone that goes is like, "Oh, it failed."
Blamed out.
It didn't. It didn't fail. It did very good, but now it's kind of fizzled down to a couple thousand of concurrent players, which is still acceptable. You can find plenty of servers. It's not dead. But that's not what a AAA company is going to want from their title. They want that long-term sustainability. And so why did that drop down so much? Was it just because the lack of new maps? Was it the lack of consistent live service that people have grown to expect? Do we just live in a world now where EA or indie games just can never compete long-term because of that? Or
I think you're right on. I think you're right on the live service because that game grabbed people. Like the BattleBits grabbed the shit out of people, but I do think you're right. Limited modes, limited maps.
Progression
the open world was incredible.
Weak.
Yeah, progression. But I think you're right. They took 5 to 7 years or whatever you guys said it took to get to market with an incredible product, and there's no gas left in the reservoir. There's no gas left in the tank.
There's never a way for them to compete at that scale. Like you've got these juggernauts like Call of Duty, Apex, even Battlefield, even though they're so slow, they're still able to pump out more because they're just a bigger company.
Yeah. And you look at stuff like the finals now, and when they come out with a season, like that season has got so much work in it, like lots of thought, new concepts, new abilities, new weapons, really cool map ideas.
The Japanese theme looks amazing too. I don't know why it looks so much better, like the lighting or whatever they're using.
What's it called? The finals,
really
but what? The Japanese?
It's a Japanese themed season. So there's like katanas and
I'm looking this up right now.
A new bow weapon, and it looks cool. I mean, the finals is a really interesting title.
I feel like cool. You would. Did you play the finals, Brandon? I feel like that's kind of
it off stream a little bit. And it was cool. Like innovation out the wazoo.
Yeah, it is sort of a wild game in the sense that they went for something really crazy and then they're trying to tame it, and you're like, I don't know if it's fully tamed, but it is fun. Like
it's a lot of fun. They just need more modes. Like the formula they have is very unique, but I don't think that's enough to keep people around because people want to play Conquest, people want to play TDM, people want to play S&D. Like how do you get that into that game?
Well, they have started to incorporate, like there's the one life mode where if you get taken out, that's it. So there's no revive. So they have started to incorporate that in.
Yeah, their modes are pretty good too. But they do swap them out a bunch.
Swing back around.
Yeah.
I mean, there's magic to be captured in the gaming space right now in the shooter market. Like I gotta be careful what I say here because I do consult and I have multiple NDAs that would ruin my life right now. But there is
with his NDAs.
There is Hello Kitty Island Adventure too, man. I know you're all over that.
I'm playing, making Roblox Rambo. All right, there is room for innovation. There is room for people to, like, I think XDefiant's a good example. They took a swipe at COD. COD doesn't have a TDK. COD doesn't do this. We want there to be a bigger skill gap.
Well, and they also made it free, too.
Yeah,
so
it's wonky, like netcode and the jumping they're fixing, and they're making their tweaks, but they nailed it.
About it. That's fun. They did it. I think they did a good job.
They nailed it.
Going back to the live service, my hope is that by one new map every single month, I think. So each season will have its own theme, and they'll come in with a new faction, which will have their own abilities, which will hopefully spice up the gameplay in that respect. New weapons every season, and then every single month is a new map for like an entire year. Like,
that's incredible.
That's respectable. That seems solid.
Yeah, they went full send. More games need to do that out of the AAA environment,
Yeah, I think that was just the problem with this. I mean, not the problem, but one of the weird things with this latest Battlefield and why the community's still like on this weird, there's still so many people arguing that live service won't work for Battlefield. And it's like, it's just because they haven't done it correctly.
They haven't done it right. Yeah, they haven't done it right. That's all it is. One map and one remastered map every 3 months.
Incredibly well.
In the past.
When it was premium.
Yes, with BF3?
That's a live service. Yeah. Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, that premium service was a live service, but you paid for it.
Yep, but like we said, they've abandoned the things that did work to reinvent the wheel, and it's blown up in their face on almost every single level.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. And also, think about this. Battlefield 4 really was the last real attempt at that era of combat. Like that was the last modern military, not future military, not historical shooter. That was the last modern military. BF4, it's like ancient now. What is it, 10 years old at this point? And
well, what do you think the next Battlefield is going to be? You think it's going to be modern?
I think it would be stupid for them not to do modern. Like, it just seems like that was the slam dunk theme for them. And I'm all for them visiting historical stuff. I really liked BF1 a lot, and I think BF5.
Oh, you should, because it
came
broke
back
records in
way.
sales. BF1 did. Like, and you got to remember, back in the BF1 days, I wasn't a huge fan of the time era, but it was polished. It wasn't crashing the first 6 months, and the game looked incredible. It was dumbed down compared to other previous Battlefield titles, but oh my God, was that popular.
It got a lot of people involved with the franchise, and for many, you could ask, and it's their favorite out of the bunch. Like, that is their favorite Battlefield.
To be fair, they did also finally get the weapon mechanics there. The problem with the game was that it was a different take on weapon meta, and the meta was kind of hidden behind simple stats. You know, you look at the gun stat and it'd be like high rate of fire, and you're like, I don't know what that means, you know. And so to understand the weapon meta, you basically had to go watch a YouTube video. You almost had to watch a YouTube video or study the stats so that you could understand that, okay, this gun needs to be fired in this very specific way to maximize its DPS. And then once you could understand that, then there's like all this nuance in there. But if you have to go outside the game to learn that, then that's a problem. And so that was like one of the problems with the depth in BF1, is it just wasn't readily accessible to the average player.
Yeah, but Destruction was great. The Calibri, the Martini, like they had just so much cool stuff.
I love the Martini Henry, dude. Just sniping on those maps, getting those one shots, just that sweet spot. Like,
I can still hear it right now.
The noise.
Yeah. And then somebody gets in close and you bayonet him in close range.
Lame as hell, though.
Oh yeah, the gas spam was terrible.
And some of their modes were not really well balanced, like the mountain map where there was like one entrance into one of those objectives. They're like, "Are you kidding me, Dave?"
And then the blimp is right on top of everybody slaughtering. Yeah.
Ballroom Blitz. I think if you, it was something like they couldn't get past the first objective, or like if the blimp spawned in, you didn't have anything to shoot it down with.
No. You had to snipe you didn't have anything. Out.
Yeah, you had to like kill it with a sniper rifle or something. You're like, okay, so I guess we just lose this objective.
Yeah, the bombers, whatever you want to call them. I just shoot them out, but then you're getting shots. Like, okay, you can't just do that all around.
Yeah. But when that Zeppelin came down and like blew stuff up, you're like, yeah, that's AAA money right there. That's where DICE excels and like did such a good job.
It was a cool gimmick. It got annoying, but it was a cool. The destructibility of it was incredible.
Unlike
gimmick.
Tornadoes, which were way cooler.
What do you mean? The tornadoes were dope. I love how dumbed down the tornadoes too were by the end. They acted as if they were going to have more of an influence on like the destructibility of the maps. So it's like, it picks up objects and then throws them down.
Yeah.
And, there was one dev saying how he loved where there was a sniper on a building and we couldn't get to him, but then a crate just landed on top of him. I was like, that's really cool. Never happened.
Yeah, I imagine they had to turn a lot of that stuff off because it was like, it was neat when they turned on the physics button, but then like broke a whole bunch of other stuff in the game.
Yeah.
So.
I knew I was done with 2042 when I played beta, and I'd flick to somebody and they'd literally be coming up out of the ground, and meanwhile you're halfway dead. That's when I was done with that game.
Yeah, it took a long time to fix that game, and then they just never delivered with the content, unfortunately. They had a couple of decent DLC maps.
It was just slow. It's just slow.
Trickle.
Do you think they wise up and say, you know what, we could take the best bits of BF3 and BF4 and some of BF1 and do a core gritty Battlefield experience? I
don't know. What do you think Vince Zampella is going to do? Because they brought over Mr. Call of Duty to run the whole thing. He's a smart dude. He's made a ton of super successful games, but
They've always been super
respect
fast-paced.
the core of Battlefield, or is he gonna just turn it into something else? You know,
I will say this: if you know, and again, I've done a lot with Titanfall 1, Titanfall 2, and Apex and stuff like that. I will say if they don't go back to a core gritty experience, that's going to be a potential disaster, and that might be it.
I agree, but man, I would take a Titanfall Battlefield.
That wouldn't be bad.
You would, but that would be a financial failure of epic proportions.
2143 kind of style Battlefield, right? Where it doesn't even have to necessarily be Titans, but just having, you know, mechs and tanks. You're getting into mechs and I get that it would probably be much more risky, but
it's hard to say how massively 2142 failed, because back when that game came out, it was one of the least popular Battlefield games I think ever. But it also came out at a weird time where consoles were taking over a big portion of the market, and most games were coming out on PC and console, but that one didn't. And so it was like stuck in this weird console generation switchover thing. And so you're like, yeah, it didn't fit. So yeah, saying the game failed because of the thematic choices is hard to know for sure. But I think the Battlefield audience ultimately doesn't show up for the sci-fi themes as much as I would love to see a mech shooter.
Bad, man. Yeah, just getting into the mechs and just destructible environments, a huge city, and just
yeah. Well, I mean, it's like that destructible environment in Firestorm, when you plugged in that destruction to a Royale experience, and you're like, oh, this is what a Royale can be like. If some dude's camping at the top of that stairwell and you just blow up the building, like screw that. You know, I'm not going through the one entrance and getting gunned down on the, you know, in just the worst situation. That changed it up in such a cool way. And it's still surprising to me that nobody has tried to replicate that in a Royale. I think the new PUBG updates got some destruction, but I don't think they're doing Battlefield destruction.
I doubt it.
Yeah. PUBG, that game's coming to Unreal 5 at some point, I think.
Have they announced like an idea like Q1 2025?
I don't know, man. PUBG started out indie, made like billions of dollars, and then still feels super indie and janky all these years later.
Yeah, and it looks like it came out 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
Well, it's not when it goes to Unreal.
Well, that's the hope. You would assume so.
Yeah. Isn't it wild that PUBG Mobile is like, I think it's like even bigger than normal PUBG.
Yeah. Well, you have to think of world market. You know, countries like India and other parts of Asia, they can't afford consoles, and they got shoddy internet, so they just go on the cell phones.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, mobile is crazy because everybody has access to mobile, and so it's like you can capture that market. The money in it is just insane.
Yep.
You guys playing any mobile games?
No, I don't play mobile games.
I played that only when I'm paid to.
I played the new Star Wars Hunters game on mobile via sponsorship thing, but I was actually surprised by how decent it was.
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, best PvP Star Wars game since.
Oh damn! I didn't know it was PvP.
Oh yeah, it's like Overwatch. Star Wars, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Very Overwatchy. And it works.
I had no idea what it was about then.
I know. I'm kind of like, it's so good that I'm like, it should be on PC for sure. Like, it just feels like they just underestimated how good their game was or something. I don't know. But yeah.
No, the game I've been playing is Destiny 2. I beat the campaign.
Oh, yeah. Oh. And did we win?
It's over, baby. Well, it's not over, but yeah, no. The whole 10-year saga has concluded, and they did. You know how most movies, television, books, and stuff, the journey is usually better than the destination.
Yeah, like Game of Thrones. Yeah,
it's journey before destination. A nice Stormlight Archives reference, and it's because like there's so much that goes on during the journey. Mass Effect is probably one of the best examples of this, at least in terms of gaming. Yeah. And ironically, Destiny 2 is actually they actually stuck the landing while stumbling across the entire journey to get there. So they kind of somehow cobbled together characters and relationships over a decade. It didn't need to be so convoluted and vague the entire time, but then they finally coalesced it into a like motivations. You know what characters want. You know why the bad guy is here, and they just great missions, emotional stakes, emotional payoff, and they delivered and actually stuck the landing. What's really cool too is that they incorporated the raid into the story this time. It's almost always separate, which just makes it feel like a raid. But in this, so the Witness is the big bad guy. This is, I guess, kind of spoilers, but they're the big bad guy.
It's in the trailer, I think.
Right, I know. But the raid is that like a fire team goes in, and the world first took 19 hours to clear. So 19 hours of grinding. There was some really big content creators like Aztec Ross, I think his name is, sorry. And it took him 34 hours, something like that, to clear it nonstop.
How big are the raids? Like 12 guys? Like what's the size?
I believe it's six total. Yeah.
6, okay.
So it's a hefty amount, and they're really complicated. Very complicated. This is the hardest raid they've ever done. But what was awesome is that after the raid, you couldn't actually finish the campaign because it was contingent on a raid party going in and weakening the Witness. And there was a voice line where there's one of the Zavala's giving the speech saying, what we had a fire team infiltrate into the Witness's fortress and weakened him, and now we're here to finish the fight. And so it's a really cool way.
That's kind of dope.
Yeah. It was a cool way of telling the story and incorporating it in. I was like, damn, Bungie, like this is what I'm talking about.
So is that it then for that game?
No, so the Light and Dark saga, way back in the day, I don't know if you ever played Destiny, but there was the Darkness, because it was like the big evil.
The darkness.
Well, yeah, the darkness. I can't explain what the darkness is.
It's just
they finally explained the darkness, and it's basically just an entity of it's no worse or better than light. It's not good or bad. It's just basically a force of nature. And they finally concluded
it.
They explained it. They finally concluded that story arc, and it took a decade. Now they're moving on to something else.
Got it.
We're going to learn more about that.
So there's not like a Destiny 3 coming in 2 years. It's still this.
People are speculating because Sony bought them. I feel like Sony's probably like, no. There's going to be a Destiny 3, because
they need to pump the money.
Well, it's also be a good starting point for new people to jump in. Destiny is a very difficult game to get started because of just the amount of DLC and
like World of Warcraft.
So when a story important story bits, you would assume you'd be able to go back and play it. Not in Destiny. A lot of like the
super weird to me that they changed that's how they did their DLC stuff, where they're like basically making some of the earlier stuff unavailable. You're like, how is that your base game design? Because weird. I know they changed up the locations, right, with the DLC. It's like, why not just design it so you go to a different location and not have to come back to the old ones and make it unavailable? That's super weird to me. But
the best example of this is that the last expansion was really not great. It was rough. Lightfall. And the entire time they were mentioning the Veil. We need to get to the Veil. We got to stop them from getting the Veil. But they never actually said what the Veil was. The only way for you to learn about the Veil was in the seasonal content that came after that, like the in-between, where a lot of people just don't experience it because they're like, I just don't have the time or whatever. And that seasonal content that did explain what the Veil was, which is basically just the Traveler version of Darkness, which you wouldn't know about. All of that seasonal story is now gone. You literally cannot go back and play it. It's gone.
Hot take, I feel like the term veil is way overused in fantasy and sci-fi stuff. It's like in everything. The Veil.
Yeah.
Oh,
the Veil.
I swear it's in Homeworld. It's in the book, The Red Rising I'm reading. It's in Destiny. You're just like, just shut up about the Veil already.
It's just a great word.
It's a cool word. It was cool until every sci-fi fantasy thing on the planet was like, oh yeah, it's the Veil.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
long story short, very impressive. I really enjoyed the ending of Destiny 2. It's not a game I necessarily recommend for anyone to pick up, but it's nice to have Bungie deliver, especially when their back was up against the wall.
Yeah. Now, how
it's
hot
nice
is
to see games make a recovery? You know, like there's been multiple games that have done that. Multiple games have done that. What was the open world exploratory galaxy shit that came out years ago? It was a disaster.
No Man's Sky.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
that was another game. Cyberpunk, another game came out.
Yeah.
Terrible, buggy, hot mess. And then
Rainbow
boom,
Six Siege.
There you go. Another great example. It can be done, but you need good fundamental ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. You need the good foundation there, and you need for the people to see the value in it. And then you're like, okay, we can turn this around. Like, we didn't fully get it or whatever. You get it there.
Yeah. I mean, you got to deliver when you make these grandiose promises and trailers. Like, people get sucked into that because it's what they're looking for. That when you fall short of that, you know, you get what you get. But I think if games did a better job of executing on what they promise, what they think they're going to, or say they're going to deliver, it'd be a different space in the gaming world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that comes down to management and all that kind of stuff, right? Or you got people at the top like, when's the game going to be ready? And the devs are like, okay, well, here's a completely obscure concept to try and quantify in a timeline for you. A year. And they're like, all right, release dates like, you know, December. And the devs are like, okay, I guess. And then they get down to it. And for anyone that knows anything about game development out there, is that it's not like a measured science. You get to a new feature or a new function, you're like, oh man, to get this working, we actually have to change a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't anticipate. That's 3 more months of work. That's 4 more months of work.
Things where like an Origin update broke their build. And like would introduce terrible things to the game.
Yeah. And then there's all that kind of wild stuff you got to deal with. And totally crazy stuff. What do you guys think about the Xbox Game Pass? Like this Summer Game Fest announcements and then Microsoft stuff. We were talking about last podcast with COD coming to Xbox Game Pass. That was a pretty big deal in itself. Now they've like added, I don't know how many games to it over the Summer Game Fest thing, but
their showcase was incredible.
It's how they're going to pump money, right? Because they've had money problems. Not Microsoft doesn't make enough. It's that product doesn't make enough money. Yeah. That product isn't profitable enough.
Underutilized too with Microsoft's power, essentially.
Correct. So I think they're going to knock it out of the park. And again, the other part of that is a continuing to push PC market. Mm-hmm. You know, all the stuff comes to PC. You know, they started shifting those gears years ago, and it's paying off.
Companies are finally starting to realize the power of PC, and it's like
what sells your games.
Good, finally. Like the Monster Hunter series was doing kind of like a delayed. We're going to do exclusive on like for 6 months or a year for like Monster Hunter on PlayStation. Is like, okay, I get it, but now it's like no, it's going to be at launch all platforms. Like,
because that's what all the biggest content creators use and tell their stories with. It's PC. It's not console, you know, and that's what sells games. Because how many times have we seen a content creator on YouTube or Twitch or wherever start playing some weird game and it pops off because another one does it, and then another one, and then another one, and that's the biggest thing. So that's kind of how PUBG started. No one knew what PUBG was. That shit went like wildfire once people started playing it.
Yeah, that has got to be one. That's like next to Minecraft in terms of just like one of those insane success stories.
3.5 million concurrent players on Steam at one time.
It's the biggest game.
Still holds the record. You're like, what could possibly beat that?
It's climbing again.
Other than this banana clicker game, I don't know if anything's gonna beat it, man.
But going back to the Microsoft, like the amount of high quality games that they have in like their pocket right now is staggering. And like the amount of like day one on Game Pass, like every single one. And it wasn't just their established franchises that we kind of already knew was in the pipeline, but they came out with new stuff like that Expedition 33 game, which is like a real-time or the not real-time strategy, but like it was an RPG. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. And look phenomenal. And all of these are gonna, I believe, be on Game Pass. It's like, holy cow.
How much is Game Pass a month?
It's like 17 or 18, something like that.
Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Because what is it? The average consumer buys a game and a half a year. What is it? right? There's a stat out there. It's not much, like a $60 or $70 title. They buy like roughly a game or game and a half a year. So they're trying to capture that and push that.
Well, you know what I was thinking about
is
it's like they're trying to become sort of the Netflix of games to an extent, where that value there is now becoming insane, right? There's almost nothing that can compete with the Game Pass value dollar wise. And so they're just making so much value there where it's like Netflix, where everybody at some point had a Netflix subscription because they're like, well, I can just watch all of this stuff. There's like limitless stuff whenever I want. It seems like they're literally trying to be that for gaming. And if they're the first ones to do it, then they'll become the Netflix of Game Passes.
The question is, and we talked about this a little before, is that they're pumping so much money into these other titles, like these games. They've got some games and they're looking really good, but can they get enough people to actually subscribe and keep them subscribed? And can that fund the development and bring them more money beyond that?
I think it will. I think it will. Because isn't there like a Game Pass for PC now too?
What do you mean?
Or are they going to roll that out?
Well, I mean, Xbox or Game Pass is for PC too.
It is PC.
Okay, it is PC. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My apologies. Yeah. I mean, that's the way to go. Subscription based.
Yeah. You're right. Actually, on that front is like with Netflix, to keep people interested, they had to have things scheduled so that, and that's what they're doing now with shows, is they'll show you the first half of the season 1 month, and then the second half will be the next month.
Every other week or every week,
so that you don't just binge it and cancel. So doing that with games is way harder, I feel, than with shows, because with linear edited content, that's much more predictable in terms of how long it's going to take to produce. With a game, and they're like, hey, we need it by February, and the devs are like, oh, we got all these problems that we're trying to work out. Like, that's going to be really tricky, but maybe they can do it. And Microsoft's got the money too to lure devs over and just be like, hey, let's launch it on Game Pass, and they'll like.
I do gotta admit, I'm getting pretty tired of the engagement based revenue sources, because it's like you have to play our game, and you have to play our game for months and months and months and months and months. It's like, can I just enjoy it for a couple of weeks? Or for like 1 month and then move on and then come back maybe in 6 months or something and do the same. No, time gated. That's why I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with their new episodes. It's like, can I just, when the episode comes out, can I just play the entire thing and, enjoy it in a couple of weeks? Or are they going to go back to what they did before? It was like, every week you have to come back and do a quest. And then it's like, no, stop.
Yeah. I sort of resented the finals seasonal pass stuff for that, making me feel like I had to play it so much, just to get the content out of it.
That's the World of Warcraft way.
Yeah.
But when every game
is your grind,
when every game becomes World of Warcraft, it's just too much.
That's the first game. Like, World of Warcraft to me is the first game that I can remember where you had to be in that world to get shit done.
Yeah.
Or you weren't getting things done at all. You couldn't do anything timely. They'd run you around, go whack 12 hobbits, go collect 6 dingleberries, come back, whack these hobbits, because they're a different type of hobbit. And then I
don't remember hobbits being in World of Warcraft.
You don't remember the Great Hobbit Massacre?
No,
Brandon started it back in the day. He just killed all the hobbits.
I have nightmares. Yeah, shaman oil or some shit like that. Absolute nightmares to water walk people.
I love that everybody from our generation has played World of Warcraft. Like, regardless of if we're into like hardcore shooters now or whatever, we all played it. So like,
that's the game that changed it for our generation.
Murlocs. Yeah.
That was it. That was the game. Like,
definitely ruined some college semesters for me. That's for sure.
Yeah. What's it now? Grand Theft Auto? Like, how many games can you put on that Mount Rushmore? Fortnite? Now you're designing games in Fortnite? Like, how many,
Yeah, I think Minecraft still is games? Like massive for, but it's like in the younger generation where like everybody growing up now is going to have played a crap load of Minecraft, and that'll just be part of your childhood.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been out for some people as long as they've lived, and they're like 15. I mean, I think they had their 15-year anniversary.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Notch is making a new game. We don't know what it is, but
oh, did it look pixely or 8-bitty or 16-bitty? Is that what it was?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not I'm not holding my breath, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Minecraft's such an insane success.
Can he strike twice? Can
I
Lightning strike
mean,
twice? We'll find
at
out.
that level,
Not
no
at that
way.
level. There ain't no way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a 1 in a billion chance right there. Literally.
I'm just happy to see more indies have success.
Yeah.
You know,
Jeff Keighley, he literally introduced the Summer Game Fest as like, hey, we don't really have a lot of really cool big AAA titles here, but that's okay because if you look over at Steam, 8 out of the 10 are all indie, smaller companies, and there are what are capturing the attention and the imagination of gamers. So it doesn't need to be crazy graphics or large in scale for there to be a lot.
Give us a unique experience.
Yeah.
You know, what's the one game where you're like your construction workers and going on the foreign planets and like you're the Mike, what was that called?
Construction worker on
like what was that called?
Factorio or something?
No, everybody was playing it, right? Like you're in a group of 3 or 4 and you're going to get a stop sign inside.
Oh,
what's it called?
You're talking about
Genius though, right?
Yeah. Let me find the
Space
game. I know what you're talking about.
And they mess with
Lethal
your
Company.
mic. Yeah, Lethal Company.
Okay.
Genius.
Yeah. Then that was
Simple
one
idea.
dude, right?
Instructions. You were literally running around, and they've added a lot more. I can't wait for that game to actually come out. I'd love to play it again because you're absolutely right. It's really basic concept and somehow hilarious and scary and just a great little gameplay loop just to go in, pop out with your friends.
Yeah, you can mess with people, right? Or you don't even need to play the game seriously. You just have fun. Right? Like, who cares if we
I think it was outselling Call of Duty at the time.
Oh, it did. It did.
I mean, it was like $5, but like still, it was still outselling Call of Duty.
The Steam or what? I think is that a Steam game? I just remember the one day to be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Like the player counts were absurd.
Yeah.
It's cool, man.
But, all right, I need to get going, gentlemen. I got dinner.
All right, Brandon. Good to have you on the pod, dude. Appreciate it, man.
Love
say
to do
hi
it
the
again.
family.
Let me know. But thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you. Man. Have a good one.
Take care, boys.
And he's out of here.
Now we can
now we can really cut loose.
Yeah, no, it's good to talk to Brandon. We'll have to try and get Jack on the pod too. Get the squad back together.
The whole squad up together. Yeah.
Squad up,
even if it is just in pieces.
Have you? I watched two decent movies actually. 2 movies that I really enjoyed since last podcast. I watched Fall Guy, the romantic comedy with Ryan Gosling and
he's so hot right now. He's
super hot right now.
He's
really
in
in shape. Yeah. And I forgot the girl's name.
And attractive. Yeah, I meant more of just, he's just popular because he's just been everything. But yeah, he's also very attractive.
Yeah. And then, I'm done forgetting the girl's name because she's super good in everything too. But
Emma
no,
something?
Not Emma, but yeah. I don't think it's Emma. Anyway, that one was good.
Emily Blunt. That's
Emily
what it is.
Blunt. Okay.
See, that's why I thought Emma, right?
You're close.
Yeah.
That one's solid. It's very funny and just like enjoyable in the sense that it's half like a tribute to stunt guys in movies. Mm-hmm. And it almost feels like the movie was made to sort of celebrate stunt guys, and it has tons of stunts in it, of course, and explosions and things going on. So they probably had to hire a huge stunt crew for the movie, and then like in the credits they're showing off all the stunt guys that were doing all the crazy stuff for them and stuff. So yeah, it's a fun kind of silly rom-com around the stunt guy world, but it's really well done, and there's tons of big actors and fun cameos in it. Like
nice.
Jason Momoa has got a cameo in it.
So it's a fun movie.
Yeah, and like one of the main actors is like doing a Matthew McConaughey impression during the movie, and they're just like making fun of McConaughey, and I don't know, it's just weird. Like it was just the whole time it's fun, solid rom-com. I'm happy to see rom-coms that can like be good big budget productions nowadays, because that used to be a major staple of the film industry, and then they just didn't really have the budgets to do it anymore ever once things switched over to streaming.
Yeah, they had
Yeah.
is because there was no DVD sales. I think I think God, there was some big actor that came out and was saying how
I think it was Tom Cruise or somebody like had an interview and saying like they love making those kinds of movies, but the rom-coms were all DVD sales. They made tons of money on DVD sales.
And then when that kind of went away, well, it's like, what can you do?
Yeah. So this is a good rom-com, and I think they made it work because they sort of turned it into an action movie at the same time. And so that sort of hopefully drew in a bigger audience.
Yeah, it appeals to more audiences. Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was solid. The other one I saw, which I think you can just stream it on Netflix or something, is Hitman.
Isn't that also a rom-com?
Yeah, it is actually. It's interesting.
You like
it's kind
rom-coms. Okay.
It's sort of like a dark rom-com in a way.
I heard it was also good.
Yeah.
Two very attractive actors.
Yeah, I forget. Glenn Powell, I think is his name, is the main guy. And then the woman he's with is also smoking hot. But
yeah, they're both very pretty individuals.
Yeah, and it's always funny when they try and make a really good-looking guy be a nerd. Like at the start, he's like this nerdy.
Give him glasses.
Yeah,
maybe like,
he's got long hair. He's got the light-colored jeans with the belt up high and his shirt tucked in. He's sort of like, "Hey guys," and you're like, "Okay, I see that's Glenn Powell behind the glasses."
Not another teen movie from back in the day. It's like, what do they do to make her attractive? They just get rid of her glasses and let her hair down.
But this one was there's a bit of that obviously in the film, but it's sort of loosely based on a real person that I think he might have been like the philosophy teacher or the director. It's directed by Richard Linklater, who I really like. He's done some of my favorite. I was telling you about a previous podcast, like Until Sunrise, I think is one of the movies. He did like a trilogy romance, which is pretty rare. But they're all very good, and they're shot like 10 years apart from each other with the same actors in it.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
So he's a really interesting director, and he only like makes stuff that's he's interested in. So he wrote and directed this one, and it's based on like, I think a philosophy teacher that he had in real life, and then he added like a fun little narrative around him. But like the idea is a philosophy teacher that also goes in to do he basically pretends to be a hitman for the police department so that they can get somebody to say, so that somebody who tries to hire a hitman on the internet, they'll send him in, and then they'll get them to say basically, yeah, I want to give you money to kill this person, and then they incriminate themselves.
And then they go,
and then they go to court and go to jail. So you're like, oh, that's kind of an interesting premise. So like he does that on the side. He kind of gets pulled into it by just working with the police department in other ways, and then he needs to fill in one day and then ends up being really good at it. And then he sort of meets this girl who wants to do that, and he feels like she's a better person, and he makes it so like
because she's really hot.
Yeah, she's smoking hot, and he gets her to not incriminate herself, and everybody's like, what was that about? And he's like, she just felt like she didn't want to do it.
No reason at all. That's really funny.
And so that's kind of the premise, and then things kind of escalate from there. Mm-hmm. But it's got a really fun evolution to the movie, and it's
cool.
Not as predictable as most rom-coms are.
I saw it and I heard good things. I was going to watch it, but now I'll have to, because that does sound like fun.
Highly recommend it. So those are my two movie recommendations.
I saw Wonka.
Which one? Don't they have like 4 of them now or something?
The most recent one with Timothy Chalamet.
Okay. How was it?
It was surprisingly charming. It was whimsical. It was a musical, which I did not expect, considering I should have.
The first one was, right?
Right, but I was like, it wasn't advertised. I felt like I don't remember there being any singing or anything in the trailers for that.
Yeah, that's what they would lead with in the trailer usually, right?
Yeah. Literally, first thing is a song. Like it, like there's no dialogue. It's just straight into a song, and it is like that throughout the entire movie. Timothy does a good job as Wonka. I thought that he did well. It has some big fun cameos and actors that are involved, and it walks this fun line of being ridiculous but also charming and heartwarming. And I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but I left it satisfied, and I was like, this was good. I can understand why people enjoyed it, because it had decent reviews too.
Mm-hmm. Is it kid appropriate or no?
Yeah, it's PG.
PG. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they try to kill Wonka in goofy ways. So there is they're put into life and death situations, but it's not like it's not serious.
Yeah.
If that makes. But I also don't have a child, so I don't know if I can
I don't
really.
know.
Yeah.
The first I haven't showed the kids the first Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie, but
that scarred me. I hated that movie.
there were some nightmarish scenes in it.
It doesn't have anything like that in this at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's much goofier.
Yeah, you don't know if some of those kids just died. You're like, I don't know, they fell into like a tube in the ground and screamed on the way down. You're like, are they dead?
Yeah.
Maybe.
There's nothing like that in this.
Yeah. The girl that they turns into a blueberry and they have to juice her, and they're like, I hope they juice her in time or she'll explode. And that's the last time you see her. And you're like, okay. She looked pretty big. She looked like right on the verge of exploding.
Uh-huh.
That was a fun one. Okay, I'll check it out. Put it on the list. I did want to check out that Godzilla movie you recommended, but we just watched 2 other movies instead. So
that's fair.
We'll get to Godzilla. It's definitely on the list. I didn't watch the sequel to Rebel Moon yet, but it is on there. Man.
I haven't seen the first anyway, so
excited for that dumpster fire of a movie. I don't know. There's just
put
something.
Your hands up to that dumpster fire. Feel the heat.
Yeah, there's just something about watching a movie where you're like, this cost somebody like $200 million, and it's the worst thing I've ever seen. Yes. Wrexham is still a fun watch. Still watching that, and the last Formula One race in Canada was fantastic. Really good race.
Nice.
That was good to see.
Going back to games, because we with Brandon, we were focusing more on Battlefield and all that, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's where we all got started. Did you have a chance to watch the Xbox game show?
I just watched trailers from it. I didn't watch the whole show.
Okay, well that's basically what it was. It was. I was so impressed with, because Phil Spencer comes on, he's like, all right, we're going to show you some games. And then it was just game after game after game after game. And then like a slight intermission where they brought out one person who was basically just like, all right, now more trailers. And it's flawlessly done. Almost none of the trailers were disappointing. Actually, I would say none of them were really disappointing.
Yeah.
And it's just stacked. What did you think about Doom? That was probably one of my highlights.
I didn't watch the Doom one yet. I'll have to check out the Doom one. Really? Okay, that was the highlight one.
Mercy. So they're going medieval, where the Doom guy will have a shield.
You have me already, dude. I'm playing it.
Well, it's like medieval but with guns, and it's still Doom.
Yeah.
What I liked about it is that it seems like it's blending the aesthetic of the first game, 2016, and the more recent one, Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
Doom Eternal felt a little gamey, right? Like, press this button now to get.
I know a bunch of people who loved the first one who didn't finish Doom Eternal, and were like, I just kind of got bothered by a bunch of the jumpy stuff.
It feels very gamey.
Maybe
which
that
is
was Jason.
fine.
Jason's in chat. I think he was bitching to me about that. But yeah,
I love Doom Eternal. I absolutely adored it. But I can also understand why people would have criticized it. So this feels much, at least from what we saw, much more gritty and a little bit more like you can immerse yourself into it like you could with the Doom 2016. Obviously with a big graphical upgrade because it's been a while. And yeah, dude, it looks really good. So I recommend checking out the trailer.
Cool. I'll take a look at that. Yeah. Game wise, I've been kind of addicted now to Everspace too. I think I had started playing it last podcast, and now I'm like into it. I think you'd like it. What I'm enjoying so much is like when the game first came out, I was looking up to see if I could bind it to my dual joysticks. Mm-hmm. And I think the support for it was kind of limited, and you had to do some weird janky stuff to get it working. Now you can map everything perfectly. So I'm flying with dual joysticks and pedals, and I've just basically replicated my Star Citizen controls in the game. Yeah. And I'm having a blast with it. It's fun. It's just, it doesn't take itself seriously. It's like a classic space adventure where you travel to planet to planet, run missions. The story's not too crazy, but it's also not too silly. It's like you can get into it, and then the you're basically just buying spaceships and outfitting them with different guns and builds and seeing what you like and then running missions with them. And it's just fun. Like, it's just,
Nice.
it's not like insanely innovative. It's just doing a classic formula incredibly well. And I can do it with dual joysticks and pedals now, which just adds to that level of immersion. So it almost feels like it's scratching that Star Citizen itch before Star Citizen scratches that itch. If it ever scratches that itch. But
Yeah, I hear you.
So yeah, that's my recommendation. I haven't beat it yet. It feels like there's a good amount of time in the game, like maybe 30 hours or something to beat it. But
That's some heft.
yeah, like I've put in some time with it and I'm like level 10 or something, and you can get up to level 30. So, I mean, you play Diablo and you can get max rank pretty damn fast. This one takes a little longer. But yeah, that's my game rec.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've been playing Destiny.
Destiny.
Was involved with that. Haven't done the raid. I thought about doing it. Jack and Tomographic were like, we're going to do the raid. And I was like, I'd love to join. And they planned on it. And then they didn't realize that I think it's their first time playing Destiny. Like literally their first time playing Destiny.
No way.
And so they thought that this was, or at least, according to their Steam like thing, it said it's first time playing Destiny. So I could be wrong. Maybe I think Jack has played it before, but maybe that was like on console. Besides the point.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like relatively new, don't have a lot of exotics, don't have a lot of the gear.
Oh yeah, you're never gonna make it through a raid.
Right. Especially the challenger mode, and which is even harder. Like the first 48 hours is challenger mode, and it has your -20 light level, which basically means you're lower level than the enemies, which means they take more damage and they deal more damage to you, which makes it harder, challenging, right? Yeah. And the last raid was definitely easy. It was more accessible, and I could see us doing that raid if it was that one came out today. But I'm really glad that we didn't attempt it, because I think it probably just would have been frustrating. With the amount.
Guys would have just been banging your head against the same struggle over and over.
Not that they couldn't have figured out the mechanics, but I don't think they would have had the gear, and I probably wouldn't even have had the gear to compete.
Well, also you said it took these top streamers
19 hours.
Yeah, well, that was the fastest. Also, you wouldn't have done it in 19 hours. You guys would have been at it for days.
Like maybe one or two of the encounters out of like 5 done.
Yeah,
and that would have been it, which could have been fun and enjoyable. So hopefully, because Tom said he wanted to do it later, which I'd be down for, but it really depends on have they gotten geared up for it.
Yeah, and that can take a while. Like you gotta spend some time.
Yeah,
those looter shooters, man. They will always hold a place in my heart. There's just something about just gearing up and getting all your cool stuff and getting that item that you're like, this will make my build work amazingly well.
And I will truly be able to play the game then.
Yeah. I've been noticing, like, it seems like there's a big Diablo surge now that patch is out.
Oh, did you see the trailer?
I didn't see it. No, I didn't see it.
Oh my lord! Watch the trailer, my friend.
Okay.
Good.
I've seen like 3 trailers. This is what happens when stuff starts happening on the weekends. Brother. Okay. I'm a family man now. Okay, I unplug on the weekends.
Just be like a little Timmy's. This is my time.
I'll check it out. I should have had it on while I was
with your family. Holy God, that trailer is gory. I got squeamish. It was so like oh. Great trailer, though.
Here's my actual excuse is when I get a little bit of time to watch or listen to something, it's usually when I'm working on the game, and I've been addicted to the last book. So I'm trying to get through the last Red Rising book, the third one, rather. So when it's like, game trailers or Red Rising, I'm like, I got to get through Red Rising, baby.
I don't blame you.
Or Rising Star, whatever the third one is. But
Morning Star.
Morning
Star, right?
Yeah, I think it's Morning Star. Yeah, I'm so bad with names, dude.
It's okay.
Like,
I am too.
I'd be like, this is my favorite book ever. And you're like, what's the main character's name? I don't know.
Steve.
Steven? That was fun. It's getting good. I mean, man, it just feels like so much has happened already, but there's still so much left in the book. So
yes.
Good stuff. Yeah. Shall we wrap up the pod there?
Sure. It was a
All right.
little fun little podcast with old X Factor.
Yeah, a little trip down memory lane. We're all different now.
I like how I had no idea he was going to be on. I was like, oh, it's X Factor. Like,
I was trying to get him
go.
for last one, and he couldn't make it. And then, yeah, I just figured I'd surprise you, just
No, that's
throw,
fine.
throw you off the
didn't
game
mind.
a little bit, Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Well, thank you everybody for dropping by the podcast. We kind of had a different show today. Didn't get to do the normal intro, but if you want to support us, we do have a Patreon that will be linked in the video or the podcast description, where you can go become a Patreon member, and then you can watch the podcast recordings live on Mondays. And there will be information on how to do that. Plus, you get to stay till the end of the podcast and just hang out with us, do a little Q&A. Listen to Matt talk about his weird, perverse hobbies and stuff like that. And this is information you don't get on the main podcast. He's giving you that look now, but it gets weird afterwards. Let me just tell you that. Or otherwise, just, give us a like, subscribe. We appreciate y'all very much. And now Matt's going to leave you with some incredibly important advice.
My advice is, what was the advice? Real nice and simple. If it was easy, everyone would do it. I'll see you next time.
You're welcome, everybody. We'll see you next time. Peace out.